presentation of the Movie Roundtable. I'm Marcus Blake and I'm with That Nerd Show.
I'm Daniel Robert Durrett and I'm with DriveByMovies.com.
I'm Brendan Smith, also with That Nerd Show.
I'm Alyson Powers with Drive By Movies.
Tonight is a very special evening. We are here at the premiere of Star Wars: The Last Jedi. And when we talk about a Star Wars movie, it's an event unto itself because it's not like any other movie. There are regular movies, there are bad movies, some good movies, and then there are special movies, and Star Wars is definitely a special movie. So we have a lot to talk about tonight, especially reviewing the film. But before we get started, after 40 years of Star Wars, of being such ingrained in our pop culture, and I also believe ingrained in our DNA, I think it's only right that we talk a little bit about what makes Star Wars great. And we're going to start with Queen Amidala over there. What do you think makes Star Wars great?
It is the essential classic, the classic of classics, and you have a simplified version of what's going on in every single human being. Is this battle between right and wrong, good and bad, what have you, and it plays out on the scene, and you throw in some great characters and some great chemistry, and fall in love with some droids.
You're obviously referring to Han Solo and Princess Leia, not Anakin and Padme.
Well, you know, and he's the ultimate hero. Darth is the ultimate hero. He does bring balance to the Force, and so I think we're all just looking at the world in that manner, waiting for our Darthy to come back.
What about you guys?
Well, for me, I think it's just that it's become such a rich universe that you can escape to at any time. Whether it's, going to watch, popping in one of the DVDs, coming to a movie event like this, jumping on a game like Star Wars: The Old Republic, or diving into one of the hundreds of books, whether it's the Legends or the new canon that Disney's done. There's always some corner of the Star Wars universe that you can escape to when you've had a bad day.
It's the knee-jerk great film. It's the greatest film in the world, knee-jerk response. Like, without thinking, when anyone says to anyone who's a Star Wars fan, what's your favorite film? They will always immediately knee-jerk to Star Wars. And then they're like, well, but I mean, like, everybody says Star Wars, so you can't.
Look, I think it's simple. The lightsabers. I mean, it was cool watching, medieval movies and sword fights and stuff like that. But as soon as we saw a laser sword and it cut through people, I mean...
Space fighters.
Well, that's it.
I'd seen jets fly before, but these were jets in space. Right. That was too cool for me as a kid.
I mean, and while we have all of our, sarcastic and funny answers, I think the end of the day it is essentially the story. It's a mythology. It's theme.
Mythology.
It's the themes that we have seen in all sorts of stories, and the reason we keep saying these same themes is, they're never going to go away. There's always going to be a struggle of, good and evil and redemption, and that's kind of, at the heart of what Star Wars is. With us, we have Alex Moore with That Nerd Show and Chloe Jenkins with That Nerd Show, talking a little Star Wars with us before we go see The Last Jedi. So, we'll ask you guys, what makes Star Wars great? And we'll start with the princess here.
Oh, well, besides everything.
Well, that narrows it down.
I know, it's hard to narrow it down. But to me, I feel like it's actually like our modern day mythos. Like, all cultures that we know throughout history had like their own mythos, like something they hold like really deep, in their core culture. And I think like as a culture, we actually need that ourselves. And Star Wars provides like the best example of that. Like, good and evil, like morality, adventure, in a one big epic saga. Like that is what it is for our culture. And there you go. And it has such a rich world around it.
It really is the watermark.
Yeah, you're great. Well, I think everything kind of sums it up. So I mean, and I don't disagree. I concur.
Well, growing up, of course, it came down to the lightsabers, especially with episode 6 with that green lightsaber. I was just pulled into that as a kid. But over time, the scope, what really gets me going is the music. John Williams, legendary composer, he's done all of them except for Rogue One, which is understandable. It's a big side project, but when you think about all the great themes going from episode 4, 5, 6, and even 1, 2, and 3, although overall as a film, the music has not died off, it has not dwindled. There's something special about the music in every single film, and you try to imagine those movies without the music, and it's just not the same. The music drives the emotions and everything else.
Yeah, and I think it was always the soundtrack that really made that movie. I mean, you'd look at the first one 40 years ago, and it was still a mess until they finally put the soundtrack, and everybody's like, "Whoa, wait a minute, this is going to be an awesome movie." So,
and you talk about what was kind of what was an early indication of spoilers was when people started buying the soundtrack to episode 1 before the movie was released, and if you read the titles of the tracks, it was going to give away parts of the movie. So I had jerks at school like, "Oh no, don't tell me." It's like, "Oh," and they start reading them off.
Right.
Like, okay.
My God's funeral.
Yeah, I loved the big double disc set when I was a kid that folded open. It had like so much stuff on the inside. It was like a magazine.
Yeah.
On the inside of the album.
You know what's also great about the soundtrack for like runners and bikers? Just whip that soundtrack on and go on your route for a while.
I use that, but I also used it to fall asleep sometimes.
What is your favorite memory of Star Wars over the last 40 years?
So I anticipated that question, and I have to say this scene here. That is when it's the end, they think it's the end, and they decide it's the forbidden love, and they decide, okay, let's just forget everyone else. There's no one else in the world, there's us, we love each other, let's go for it. And then they do some, can I say kick-ass? They do some major kick-ass at the Geonosis planet, and it's supposed to be their execution, and of course, they turn around in their favor. So that's my favorite scene.
I like the whole, Obi-Wan, Anakin says to Obi-Wan, "What about Padme?" I think she's pretty much on top of things. So she's already taking care of herself. He's worried about, he's spending time worrying about her when they're all going to get killed. Yeah. And she's already like, "Whatever, man, you're going to be here after I'm gone."
Brendan, what about you? What's your favorite memory of Star Wars?
Well, for a very long time, it was just going to see Star Wars for the first time. I went to see a double feature in a drive-in in 1983, and it was James Bond and Octopussy and Star Wars Return of the Jedi. So that pretty much formed my entire youth right there, seeing that double feature at 5 years old. But recently, just because it's just such a cool conclusion that they got to do it, was the final battle between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul on Star Wars Rebels.
Right.
And just that really cool ending where Obi-Wan kills him, spoilers, and he's sitting there holding Darth Maul as Darth Maul dies, and there's this like moment of mutual respect, and Darth Maul is finally at peace.
Right.
And I thought that was a really cool scene.
You broke my brain a little bit in that one, because now I immediately went to replacing Ewoks with sexy circus performers from Octopus. Why couldn't you replace Ewoks with?
I think for me it's because I remember my dad getting his first VCR when they were still like $1,000 and spending $120 on the VHS tape of A New Hope.
But you had to have the remote with the long
right,
cable.
exactly, with the cable. But it was the fact of playing it over and over and wearing out that $120 VHS tape. The other one that I have is, we criticize all the pirates out there, people that, leak spoilers and all that. But I do want to say that my grandmother was the ultimate pirate. When she got VCRs for all the families and grandkids, and the first thing she did was hook them all up and pirate Star Wars for all the grandkids on a VHS tape. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And I still have it somewhere. I know.
His grandmother.
Now I'm like mad at my mom, because when my mom did that with Top Gun, she put in, for my sister, she put in 2 volleyball scenes. I want mine with like 2 lightsaber fight scenes.
Was Playing with the Boys the theme song to those volleyball scenes?
Yeah, I think it was.
What is your favorite Star Wars memory? Let's start with Alex.
Wow, I think I have to go back to all the hoopla and the build up to episode 1. Even though, when we saw the movie, we were blown away. Later on, we realized that there were some serious issues with the movie, but the the hype was incredible. I mean, it was the last day of my freshman year of high school. I was glad school was out, and on top of that, I was going 2.5 hours early to a theater not unlike this one, where the line was literally wrapped around the side of the building. Everybody's talking about watching those episodes 4 and 6. What's the best one? Most of us said episode 5.
Right.
And just, you know, getting into the theater.
I just remember these kids that one of their moms made them all T-shirts with the logo of episode 1 while they were standing in line to get tickets, and on the back it said the Titanic Wrecking Crew, because Titanic was the highest grossing movie at the time. They're like, we're so determined to make episode 1 the highest grossing movie. And then they walked out. Did you like it? We're still gonna go see it again because we're the Titanic Wrecking Crew.
I camped out in Austin.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just me. The date they allowed them to line up.
Yeah.
The guys from, I think, whatever Richard Garriott's company way back in the day that did Wing Commander, they put 5 tents and would rotate their technicians through those tents to buy the max number of tickets.
Right.
The entire company went opening day.
Chloe, what's your favorite memory of Star Wars?
Oh gosh, 2 things. I mean, obviously I love that classic scene when Han Solo gets frozen in the carbonite. Leia says, "I love you," and he says, "I know." Obviously, that was overall my favorite scene in all the films. However, I think the most memorable was the moment I realized this is my favorite movie ever. Like the first time I saw it, which was like when I was watching A New Hope, and Luke was just staring at the 2 setting suns, and then that sweeping orchestra just came in, and I'm like, tears just started coming down my eyes. I'm like, wow, movies could be like this? Like non-Disney cartoon movies, which I loved before that.
Who is your favorite character? Or should we even ask you who your favorite character is?
My favorite is R2D2.
Oh, okay. It's all about the droids?
I think so. Or the Jawa. I don't know. But no, definitely R2D2. He's always saving the day. He's kind of like Carol in The Walking Dead. Shows up right when you need him.
Fair enough. Dan?
Character that is my favorite, Yoda.
Do I have to stick to the movies?
Well, no.
The universe.
I think
honestly, because this character, when they first introduced her, annoyed the hell out of me, and if she called R2 R2 one more time, I was going to kill her. But she's had the best arc of any character in Star Wars, because we've got to see her growing from a kid to a full-grown adult who can take on Darth Vader and strive.
Right.
And that's Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah.
I may be wearing a Jedi Knight outfit, but it's Han Solo. He gets all the best lines. He flies the best ship. You know?
Yeah.
I am quite wanting to see how the new DJ character is going to fit into that rapscallion that Han Solo was to fill the.
And let's face it,
character can compete with the Han Solo.
Look, and let's face it, none of us are cool enough to pull off the line. I love you. I know.
Yes.
I know we're all cool, but none of us are cool enough. I'm curious. What about you?
Well, my answer would actually be Han Solo as well. But, I hate to steal that from you, but he's such an obvious, choice. Like, he's the only character, I've actually even read expanded universe novels about it, because I actually cared about it.
Right.
Although, and I know that it's also pretty predictable, but Princess Leia would be too.
And look, I mean, let's face it, they just had the best chemistry. I was watching Empire today before I came out, and I was getting credit for this show, and it's just, the whole sequence is with them, back and forth with one another. It's just, it rivals any Cary Grant, movie.
And I loved her even outside of that relationship, just kind of how, I hate to say strong female, but she really is a good example of one that I think is a really good role model for a lot of little girls like me.
Right around in that time, you really didn't have strong female characters. I mean, I'm trying to think of other films. Silkwood, maybe, around the same time would have been, with Meryl Streep's character.
Well, I think the only thing you really had at that time that people gravitated to were Charlie's Angels, but that was TV. I think we were all pretty excited when, Disney bought Lucasfilm and it got announced that they were going to be making a new trilogy. And I know Brendan was all about, I told you so. You know, I knew they were going to make it. But I think we have to look back at The Force Awakens and ask this question. Do we still have the same grade for it? Do we still have the same love for it, even with all the complaints that it was too nostalgic and too much like A New Hope and all that? Well, we'll start with you.
I don't know. I feel that they're trying to tie in because episodes 1, 2, and 3 were so disjointed, I think, from the opening sequence. I think that they're trying to pull them together somehow.
I felt like they were forced kids films, and that's where they were off. Like the studio themselves were like, we gotta always keep in mind the kids. We always gotta keep in mind.
Do you feel that way about The Force Awakens?
No, not at all. I think we're about to walk into what quite possibly could be the darkest of all Star Wars films, and
well, and I think that's evident too by the ending of Rogue One, because it was Disney that came in and changed that and said, "Oh, you can't have a happy-go-lucky ending here. They all have to die."
Right.
So it was Disney that made that call, not Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilms, not the director. So, but. Yeah, I mean, I still, to get back to the original question, yeah, I still have the same feeling towards The Force Awakens, because I went into it eyes wide open, so to speak, with the idea that this is going to be the inevitable and predictable overcorrection from the prequels.
Right. The only thing that I'm going to say about it is, I still think it's a great movie. I don't care what anybody says. I love it. I still love it. I'll watch it. It's a great opening chapter to a trilogy. That's all I care about.
I don't think it was a great movie, but I do think it was a very good movie that entertained me, and frankly, that's all I asked for.
Right. Now, I think this movie is going to be a lot better, but
I think TNT screwed up my last week by having them on all of that kind of time, because you can't just pass the TV on a channel and then be, ooh, Star Wars. Okay. I'll leave this here.
Has your feelings of the movie changed at all? I'll start with you.
I still like it. I rewatched it not that long ago. I try not to rewatch it too much because I think the experience is better when you don't do it too often. But having rewatched it, I still really enjoyed it. I know that certain people absolutely hate it, and they're going to continue to hate it for the reasons that they do. But for me, it was still very enjoyable.
Well, you know, I agree with you. It's still a lot of fun. How about you?
I still love it just as much, but now I'm a little bit more defensive about it. Because of the
Really?
hate. I'll be defensive because I've heard like a few people like, they're just copying A New Hope. I'm like, you thought I didn't see that? You're like, they're doing that for purpose to show like cycles.
I'm going to say, this is my argument against that. And I've been arguing it since the first time I heard it. We have the same themes in Star Wars. There are other people that can have the hero's path. Is it a little too nostalgic? Sure, it's J.J. Abrams. So is Super 8, but Super 8 is still a fun movie.
You know, my response to that is, shut up and watch Hidden Fortress. That's a theme that is in all movies. That theme is in Gone with the Wind, for goodness sakes.
How many people like Conan the Barbarian? Well, that's the Arthurian legend. Come on.
There you go.
So give it a rest. We had lightsaber duels, we had great characters, and we got introduced to Rey, who, you know, is a great heroine. So give it a rest. We're still going to watch it.
And if it was just a copy, it was the greatest copy ever.
Copy from the best.
Exactly.
And you know what?
A copy from himself, so you can't even get that mad at him.
And you know what? Jar Jar Binks was not in this movie. Yay!
Not even as a senator, thank God.
Right. All right, we gotta ask. Any bold predictions for The Last Jedi?
I'm going to do the same as I always do and stay as neutral as possible. Although I have to admit, as a fan, I am keeping my expectations silently up.
I don't want to mess with anybody too bad, but Snoke is actually the Force of Kenny Baker.
What?
There you go.
Really?
No.
And there's
He's
your
the Force
spoiler.
ghost of Kenny Baker. Yeah, look, there you go. He's like, that's it, I'm getting big, baby.
I just hope Kylo Ren is not too whiny. If you get Anakin whiny in this movie, I'm done.
I kind of like a little bit of the emo-ness, though. He's a fun character to kind of make fun of in a way. Like,
okay.
Well, and you covered it. Anakin, I love he's his grandson.
Well,
he'll come by. He comes by it honestly at that point.
Look, George Lucas didn't write the dialogue for this movie, so I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, and he's like, you know, part Skywalker, so he's gonna be a little whiny when it comes to the.
Okay, fair enough. I guess Luke was a little whiny too.
Oh, Luke
really
was very whiny.
Well, I would be a bit whiny in the second film if I'd just killed my father. Or did I? Or did my dad kill himself?
But
I think you're just throwing out ridiculous spoilers to troll the fans.
That's not a spoiler.
Is Han Solo really dead? Is he not?
As far as my predictions go, I don't really want to make any big ones right now, but I know they're like Rey's probably going to go through the most hell out of anybody.
I do have one. It will be better than Episode 1.
I don't know, man.
I'm saying it right now. It's going to be better than Episode 1.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I know. Everybody, stay tuned. We will be back, and we're going to let you know what we think of The Last Jedi. Welcome back to the Movie Roundtable, and we have just seen Star Wars The Last Jedi. But before we review it, we have some questions for R2 here. I think we should get his opinion about the film. R2, what did you think about the film and your triumphant return? Luke Skywalker's a bastard. Well, it happens that way when you've been on an island for so long.
Yes, but you knew exactly how to change his mind, didn't you? No? You did. No, you did. Don't be so humble. You know you saved the day again.
Alright, R2, was I not just as fabulous as ever in the film? Oh yeah, it was my most fabulous role. I mean, Princess Leia.
Alright, R2, what did you think of your role in the movie? Yeah, they didn't have you on screen enough,
No,
did they?
not enough time.
I know, it's always about that BB-8.
No.
Well, we still have
Younger
Episode 9,
choice.
R2.
Now, R2, I have to ask you honestly about the BB-8. Did you think it was a little ridiculous when he was operating that big, fancy machinery that we've never seen you operate? Yeah, I figured you could probably do it better, but they just haven't shown you do it, so.
You know what? I mean, can we all agree that R2 is probably the better droid?
Yay.
I mean, BB-8's cool and all.
Yeah, and he has better technology, newer.
And BB-8 has never shot a lightsaber out of his top. Welcome back to the Movie Roundtable, and we have just seen The Last Jedi. And of course, we had to get R2's perspective first, but now you get to hear our perspective about this film. All right, let's have it. Are you guys excited about The Last Jedi? I mean, was it not a cool movie?
I loved it. I loved it.
I'm very excited. It was
Wasn't as dark as I thought it was
so
gonna be.
different. It wasn't as dark. It was very different. Right, it was not. I don't know. I feel like we were talking about the mythology and then the island.
Oh no, I mean, I've got some issues with it, and we're going to get to those. But I mean, overall, this is a great Star Wars movie, and we had Luke Skywalker back. You know,
Doing some very cool things.
exactly. So let's start with this. What is your favorite part of this movie?
Well, I mean, I hate to go right to the climax of it because I think everything is kind of all over the place, and then when Luke, how can I say this without
No, it's okay to spoil. We're spoiling it.
just becoming completely one, because he had shut out his power of the Force, and he just lets it go and becomes one,
With the Force.
and that's ultimately. I don't want to.
I know it adds to an interesting mythology, which I think we're going to talk about. But yeah, I mean, that was the most fantastic scene of Luke Skywalker. It's like I've been waiting almost 35 years to have that scene.
Oh, one more thing before you cut away. Just the tribute for Carrie, just so beautiful. The resurrection.
We miss you, Princess Leia.
She's our princess.
Queen, and she's so beautiful, and I just love every moment.
Brendan, how about you? What's your favorite part of this movie?
You know, there's a lot of good parts. And I was fighting back and forth between two, but I'm saying if somebody else might use the other one. So I'm going to say the part where Carrie Fisher's floating in space and pulls herself back onto the Home One cruiser with the Force.
It was
just enough to let you know, yeah, I can do it too.
It's
She was a little, I got this.
She went like full-blown Mary Poppins in that scene.
She really, I don't know if you can say Mary Poppins anymore after Guardians.
Mary Poppins, y'all.
Mary Poppins, y'all.
True. Dan, how about you?
You know, I'm falling more and more in love with Rey in each chapter of this film. So I really kind of enjoyed the whole. I mean, this film is the balance between the light and the dark. That's the whole. We knew this before we went in, but like her to use more than once the word hate in a loving way.
Right.
Like, oh. You know, not to give anything, but she destroys something she shouldn't, more than one thing she shouldn't have. And like, oh, you know, the people that looked after it, oh, they're going to hate that. And then, you know, the whole, in the Millennium Falcon with Chewie, and, you know, they had the cutaway to her, and, you know, hate that ship. Like, blow that piece of junk out of the sky.
And speaking of Rey, I honestly have to admit that the lightsaber duel with her and Kylo Ren working together in the throne room, I mean, it was such a perfect. I kept thinking in my head, oh my God, they found their dancing master. You know, and I kept hearing the line over and over. What do we say to the God of Death?
Not today.
I know, but the way they work together, the way, you know, to me that was the true essence of like hope between these characters. But it was just great. So I'm not saying it's the best lightsaber duel. I still say the best lightsaber duel is always going to be Anakin and Obi-Wan, just because of how much work Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen put into the choreography.
That's my biggest problem with the series. Is just like you said, the very first one we got lightsabers and we all went, oh, freaking lightsabers! And then they're like, oh, this is before that other stuff. Well, then why did their fight suck so bad?
Right.
You know, I mean, like.
We got Chloe James and Alex Moore, who will be talking about The Last Jedi with us and giving us their thoughts on what they thought about the movie. We're going to ask you, did you like this movie?
Absolutely, yes.
Really? Like, you're just jumping like dirt.
I'm gonna jump right there.
Okay.
In that whole, I love the area.
Are you saying you're not going to be critical at all?
I'm trying to be. I really am honestly trying to be critical. I don't agree with any of your concerns about it. But
Well, you don't often agree with me anyway, so.
I actually do.
All right.
You're actually easier on some movies than me.
How about you? Mr. Critical over here, though.
There were some really, really good moments that, you know, kind of saved the film. And I'm not saying that the film was bad, because I liked it. I'm right there saying I liked it without loving it. But as I think kind of like what Brendan was saying, it's something that I'll need to see a second time before I really get an idea of how much I really do like it. And there is a good chance that I may like it more the second time around. But at this moment, I was let down by a few little details in there. Certain things that the story arc, it was like, well, why did this happen? Why did that happen? And then they kind of come back to it and it makes sense. Okay, well, that's good. So they kind of tied that up. But it seemed like there were some things in there that I thought were done more out of convenience for driving the story that weren't necessarily plausible or likely, I guess.
It makes sense. I think all of us kind of have some issues with it, and you've heard some of ours, before you came on this show. We have to talk about Luke's journey. He has such the old curmudgeon in this movie, and this is where I have some of my issues with this movie, as to why it's not perfect. This is why I can't give it a 9.7 like IGN. While it's funny, especially when he's kind of tricking Rey and talking about, using the Force and everything, but I have this image of him like Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven. He is so broken and so cynical about everything that it's like, this is not the Luke Skywalker of my childhood. And I didn't want to watch it. I was glad when he finally, was like, at dawn, I will teach you 3 lessons. But I think we have to see more with that story of more than just the flashbacks of what has led him to this.
But hold on though, 3 lessons, and when you get the punch card and get to the 4th, you get a free Pinkberry.
Well, here's my problem with it. Okay, so he acts like a curmudgeon for 15, 20 years, whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, Yoda shows up and kicks his ass, and smacks him on the head, busts his balls, and then.
Oh no, sir! Oh no, sir! His first ass whooping came from Chewbacca.
No, but that's not my point. My point is Yoda could have done that shit 15 years ago.
Yeah.
He wasn't needed 15 years ago. He was needed right.
I'm sorry, the First Order was running roughshod that whole time. Yeah, he was.
Well, let's get serious. I think Yoda ran away to Dagobah and was smoking some serious green.
Anyway, but I'm just saying.
Look, there's a lot of things that bother me, and I realize it's probably nerd picking more than anything else because I want to remember Luke at the end of Return of the Jedi, and it took so long to get him into that heroic moment, at the very end. And then at the same time, there's not really any training going on. It's just you being a curmudgeon. I mean, Yoda was a curmudgeon in Empire, but there's such a sweetness to his training, and I don't know.
Yeah, but Luke was never that. He was never.
Very true. Very true. I guess you need 800 years of training Jedi before you get to that point.
Right.
Or 800 years of training Jedi.
Yeah.
For the, it wouldn't make sense. Hey, some of the oldest teachers are always the best.
Right. But do you feel like he comes full circle at the end of this movie?
Yeah, I mean, his ending was an amazing ending.
Right. But not just the ending, but really getting back to that Luke Skywalker that we've always wanted.
Right.
So,
did he find?
Well, and he's not an
not retribution, but
right. Really, I think in my mind, his best moment is when his reunion with Leia.
Yeah.
They have their little banter, and he kisses her on the forehead. And then he walks off, and I'm going to challenge everybody. The ending, his death scene is great, but it's that sweet moment.
Yeah. Luke is a Skywalker. You saw what he was like in the old
Spoilers.
I mean, he was the OG Skywalker that we knew about. We saw what he was like in the old films, and that part of him has not changed. It's not just strength of Skywalker, it's a lot of fear that they possess. And
he's a very broken character. I mean,
and he always has been, in my opinion.
Well, you know what?
Yes, he's the
I think
hero,
that's an interesting theory. I mean, if you really look at Luke Skywalker from episode 4 all the way through, I mean, I guess he has. I mean, there really isn't that much hope. Maybe I've been looking at Star Wars wrong all this time.
Luke is the hero, and I'll never argue against that. But Luke has never been perfect, and he's never achieved perfection, even after Return of the Jedi. He's not Yoda, who is there.
Right.
He's not even Obi-Wan.
But 800 years.
I think that was the point that even Yoda was making is. You're not listening. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
You're gonna screw up, and it's only from screw-ups that you learn.
Exactly.
Right. Even Yoda.
And it just took Luke that long to figure it out.
Now we need the standalone Yoda screw up, Yoda the college years.
Where he's like,
200.
Yeah.
Another bonehead I must have.
and then he's like, oh wait, I'm not perfect. Hold on. Perfect, I'm not.
How about you?
Specifically,
like Luke's journey. I mean, do you have issues with it, or was that one of the things you liked about the film?
it's kind of what I was expecting. So I think that part of the story was right. Some of the dialogue that was going on early on between he and Rey was sounding a little repetitive. Once it got to the point, though, and you see the training going on, it really started to gel. I thought the story went in a really good direction there for a while, and he was a big part of that because you could see the maturity and the experience that he was bringing to this, and that he's obviously spent a lot of time alone, has learned a lot between episode 6 and then episode 8. And so you're seeing he's filling in this huge gap that was going on between those two films, and you see how much stronger he is overall as well.
Well, I mean, I did love his humor. I mean, he brought a lot of humor to the roles. What about Rey's journey? I feel like she's not truly like trained, and it's just all this. Hi, I can do everything, and
I agree 100%. I love Daisy Ridley as an actress. She was great in Murder in the Orient Express, which just came out recently. But Rey is the most Mary Sue of Mary Sue that will ever marry Sue. I mean, she's got no training. She could do a mind trick before she even knew what a mind trick was.
That doesn't bother me as much as the fact that the raw power. It's just you have no training in this movie, and yet
you're a badass.
Yeah,
you know, there you are taking out the entire elite Praetorian Guard, who are presumably all Force sensitive, just like Palpatine's Crimson Guard was. And you know, the mind trick though does bother me because even for the first one, because you know, they redid the whole canon, the whole books, so that they wouldn't have any, you know, conflictions. And then the first thing they did was set up a confliction, because in a book that happens between episodes 4 and 5, Luke makes an ass out of himself in front of a girl trying to do a Force trick, and he can't do it. And he's actually seen it done.
I understand the Force works different with each person. It's not as believable. Look, if she has all this raw power, that's fine. I need a better explanation.
The best,
where does she come from?
And the best part
I'll give you a theory.
Okay.
I think there are so few Jedi now, and the concept of the Force ghost and the Spirit driving everything, that she may be getting assistance, because that is truly what the Rebel Alliance needs for them to win. There were more than one part in the film where they specifically stated, without the Jedi, the Rebel Alliance was lost.
Sure.
And I think that people take that as a loss of the game, when it may be that they are in loss of direction without the Jedi.
I think my
So
favorite
like a day
part
or 6 months.
I think my favorite part of her training, though, was when she accidentally cut the boulder in half, and it rolled down the hill and knocked out the caretaker's wheelbarrow, and they looked at her like, you know, the old nuns.
That freaking girl.
Well, her on the rock meditating when she's feeling everything. I mean, it's such a sweet little prologue, you know, with all the flat, you know, the scenes all around of nature and how it really does. It did very much remind me of, you know, I had pictures of Alec Guinness in the first one, you know, an energy that binds the galaxy together, and she's adding more to that. It's very poetic. But again, I mean, it's just, I just need a better explanation of how you can do all this without hardly any training.
Do you think that'll come up in the canon of the other side films? Like, we know we've been greenlit a standalone Obi-Wan film.
Depends on when that's going to take place.
Well,
right, but
I feel like we almost need one more film for this trilogy to complete to explain all that with her, or at least, you know, a lot happening in 9. But then again, I mean, at the same time, Luke had very minimal training, lost.
Yeah.
Somehow he was able to do everything, and maybe it really is just tapping into. Maybe it's easier for her to tap into what the Force is than you know, for Luke at that time. I don't know.
But then there was no lineage or anything.
Well, Luke had Last Jedi too.
By the way, I don't think anything's been resolved with her parentage. I think that was just Kylo Ren manipulating her.
Oh God, no.
Oh, I think so too.
Yeah. Again, do you have the same issues that I do? That it just
No. Okay, sorry.
Okay, well.
I've been like one of the most like loud protesters against Rey being a Mary Sue.
Okay.
I always have been, and I still am.
So you and Brendan are going to duke it out about Rey,
So
get the lightsabers going.
Here's the whole thing. This story, I loved it so much because the last one was like kind of like a repeat of the first one, and they showed you that, and they wanted you to see it.
Yep.
This one, it's starting to repeat it again, and then it broke it.
Yep.
So the whole theme of this film was breaking the cycle, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So Rey represents that. She's the personification of breaking a cycle. Like the whole thing was like revealed was like, "Whoa, who's your parents? You're there." It's here you go.
Well, her parents really were nobodies. I mean, again, young Anakin was kind of a nobody, but he had all this raw power. I mean, there are those.
So there might be still more to Rey, like where her powers really come from. Maybe she's just really Force, like strong in the Force.
Well, there was a theory going around that she was a reincarnation of the first Force user, and I'm like, I love that theory.
I love the theory that she was the same kind of somewhat of a nobody, and that she ends up being, and double spoiler here, the two main characters from the new Battlefront. That they'd have a full-on crossover that the two, Imperial characters that broke to join the Rebel Alliance and have their relationship that somehow an end.
Well, I've already played enough of the extended content. I hate to break it to you, but
I know.
They dispel with that myth very early on with who their daughter is, and it's a great story. How do you guys feel that Kylo Ren has evolved? He is intense in this movie. I mean, very dark, but there's also a lot of sweetness to him.
You mean more so than girls?
So I thought there was going to be a romantic moment there. Did anyone else feel that, or is that just me being a girl?
There could have been if
that was just the. Sorry, go ahead.
There could have been if one of the other made the opposite choice.
Yeah.
If one had decided to go with the other, then yes, there could have been.
Well, I mean, it was Anakin and Padme all over again.
Yeah,
I cannot follow your path.
I hate to disappoint you, but I think they're trying to set up Poe and Rey. They actually were trying to do it in the novelization of The Force Awakens, and there was a moment in the book, so that's where I think they're going with that.
But it's.
I'm not feeling it yet.
No, I just don't think it's going to happen going forward. But Kylo Ren was definitely better in this one than he was in the last one.
I like that they didn't make him go all good like a lot of the web theories were saying.
But I was really shocked that he killed off Snoke. Just because, and I'm still conflicted about that because was it a really cool turn for his character that he pulled that off? Sure, but it just feels like Snoke was now so underused.
Well, and we don't know anything about him.
Yeah, and now
it's like he's a waste of a character.
A waste of a character, but Kylo ultimately is going to be the pure evil because he cannot stand anyone.
Right. Well, there's been this theory going around that Snoke was an ancient Jedi, that had been, kind of like a vampire in a sarcophagus for a long time, who was awoken and watched everything from a distance. And I like that theory. I think it does make sense.
Well, and then he was a cipher Jedi.
Right.
And he's able to take other Jedi.
Or the first, what they call the Prong Jedi, the very first Jedi. That you just never explained that in this movie. So I'm hoping maybe there's a detail. How about Kylo Ren? What's your take on Kylo Ren in this? I mean, again, I think he was super intense.
I love that he's being back to the bad guy fully.
I loved how they kind of did, just kind of like fool me once and then fool me again. Like, was he good? Oh, he's just going off his own direction.
Super dark side.
Good for you, buddy.
I found him less irritating in this one. I think he was more centered. His performance was more believable. There seemed to be a bit more motivation behind what he was doing, and some of the little twists that happened as the film goes on, it sort of played into that and made it more interesting for his character in this film. I kind of felt like with Rey, it was less interesting than what we saw in Episode 7 for her. It kind of turned the other way. Now it seems more interesting from Kylo Ren's perspective. But still, from what I've seen with him, he's got a lot of room to improve because he still doesn't look too good. Of course, I guess very few would look good going against somebody the likes of Luke Skywalker. But
I think very few anybody can look good after a lightsaber fight. You're not getting hit in the head with a beer bottle, bro.
Do you buy him as the ultimate villain now?
You know, it's hard to say right now. It'll be interesting to see what develops between episode 8 and episode 9. If we're going to see a stark contrast from the get-go.
Well, I'm just going to say,
a completely different personality.
As much as I like him, he is no Darth Vader. Darth Vader is still the ultimate.
That's kind of what I'm looking for, though. Is he going to create a new mask that's going to be similar to Vader, or is he going to seem a little bit more zen like Vader?
Is he going to be voiced by James Earl Jones to make it more terrifying?
I think by him destroying his mask, that's another breaking of the cycle. He's like, wait a minute, I don't have to be Darth Vader anymore.
My God, I was in the cast of girls. I'm better looking than this. Getting rid of my mask.
People kept talking that we're going to have a big shocker in this movie, you know, like Darth Vader being Luke's father. Do you feel like there is a big shock? I mean, what is the biggest reveal?
I think the biggest shocker is Snoke getting killed off.
Yeah, like porg sex. That was that was definitely it.
I smack yourself. I'm not even dirty in my hands.
I don't disagree with you about that. I think that is shocking to the point that we didn't expect it. But I honestly think that for me, it's that new Jedi trick of projecting yourself and having powers and being able to fight and stuff like that. We've never seen that. What about you?
Mine's pretty shallow. The character of the one that it's not Helen Mirren. What's her name?
Laura Dern.
Rose?
Laura.
Oh, Laura Dern.
She came out and I don't know. Okay.
Well, I actually like that scene. I think that's very fitting.
I liked her in the end, but it just felt off. A little off. Her character.
But another kind of surprise was that Carrie Fisher survived the movie, because everybody thought that they were going to kill her off in the movie because of her passing. So
and they may have.
No, they didn't.
No, but I mean, what I'm saying is if she had.
Well, now they have to explain that.
Yeah. Well, no, they weren't going to if she had not passed away, because they had already stated they had to drastically rewrite episode 9 because she had an even bigger role in episode 9.
Yep.
So now they had to drastically rewrite that because of her death. So no, she wasn't getting killed off at all.
It was odd to me. Well, yeah, I mean, they rewrote her in 9 because, like, you think they, in some ways, are like, Laura Dern back now.
What do you think is the most shocking reveal of this movie, Chloe?
It wasn't like one huge reveal so much as like thousands of tiny little reveals for me. It was like, yeah, like it was like, you know, like reveal death by like 1,000 tiny knife reveals.
I mean, I can see that.
It's like,
again,
you know, they're like,
there's
oh,
the
who's
Darth
Ray's
Vader.
parents? Oh, it's, no, they're nobody important. Oh, okay. Oh, so Snoke's gonna be the big bad guy. Shh, not really.
Right.
You know, oh, hey, Yoda's back. That was awesome.
What about you?
For me, it's similar to what somebody else said just a little while ago about Snoke. That it was such a quick end for this character. I thought, well, in a way, they're kind of reprising what happened in episode 6, but I was kind of thinking to myself, really, that's it?
It's just such a wasted character now.
Which leads me to believe that maybe there's going to be some other character that comes along in episode 9.
He is actually going to come
R2
back.
agrees.
But I'm starting to wonder if we're going to see a split in episode 9 where it's going to be 2 films that sort of become the trend nowadays for the third installment to really be 2.
I almost feel like they have to without making a 4-hour movie. Which, I mean, I'll sit through a 4-hour Star Wars movie.
I know this. I want a home loan for whoever is putting the money up for the Empire. I mean, they keep giving them another ship, Death Star. They keep getting more and more lines of credit to get weapons with.
What does that remind you of, by the way?
What did you hate about this film? Nothing? Did I already answer that question for you?
I'm going to try to think of something. Hold on.
All right, we'll ask Alex, because I know he'll be a little...
I think they gave us too much story, packed too much into this movie. You know, I think some of these elements maybe could have been saved for maybe shortened or taken out, and without really hurting the story. It was just a lot going on there, and unlike what somebody else was saying before, going into episode 9, I really don't know. I mean, it's like when I look back at the previous trilogies, you kind of have an idea of what maybe is going to happen next, although there's still some mystery. Here, I'm not really sure, you know. Certain people I thought were going to be gone are still there, so it's like, well, I know it sounds weird to say that's a disappointment, but it's like some of the expectations were kind of a letdown for me in terms of who's still around at the end of this movie. It seemed like somebody had to go, and it doesn't seem like anybody's gone except for the one person that I didn't think was going to go. So
it's still kind of emotional, but
there
it also
are a few
makes
though
sense.
that I think are probably we think are gone and maybe coming back. Captain Phasma.
I think she can survive that. We'll see.
She got shot straight up. Chrome Dome's coming back, man.
How would you grade this movie?
I think I need to watch it again, but I'll go with an 8.
I'm gonna say 7. If I could grade the first part.
Really, you're just saying it's okay?
It's okay.
Well, you did try
Let's
Justice
go
League.
look on your other 7s and see what we're
The
going to
last 30 minutes, I give a 9. I give a 7 to everything.
Man, I give it a 10. It's Star Wars. It gets a +2 before I even sat down in the theater, man.
Okay.
Look, I want to give it an 8. I do. I mean, I'm sorry, I want to give it a 9, but I have to give it an 8 because I have serious issues with her lack of training and not developing that story. All the scenes on Act 2 are beautiful, but there's just
Little substance.
There's a lot of lack of.
I feel like if this is the Empire of this trilogy, at least Empire answered a lot of questions for me. You've left me so many unanswered questions with this one that I'm torn.
Yeah, but Empire was the second of a series of 3.
So is this one.
This is a new world era.
Again, you've answered a lot of questions. You've given a lot of big deals.
Answer more questions.
I feel like you didn't do that with this, and you're saving everything for episode 9, even if you're going to answer.
And I think, I mean, how long is episode 9 going to be? Because look at the state that the Resistance is in right now.
Yeah, you
That
almost
just felt like a really weird ending for me because how was episode 9 going to be 5 hours long? Because you're going to need that much development.
Well, my feeling with Disney is they already know they're going to make another trilogy after this, so they're doing just enough to like, well, this is the rebellion, and then we're going to jump like 10 years after episode 9, and we're going to have a whole nother trilogy.
They're playing.
That's what I think that they're doing.
Bet.
And it kind of pisses me off.
Don't jump so far though that we got to go back and prequel with new actors in old characters.
Look, I will say this. I'm not going to say that I will stick with my 8 in a year from now. I do want to watch this film again. I'm going to need to see it a few times because there's a lot going on. But that's where I'm sitting right now. And if I change it, I will let people know. If I was wrong on something, I'll let people know. But that's where I'm sitting with it right now.
And they need to fix Yoda.
Right. And well, actually, I like Yoda.
Yoda was great.
He
Frank Oz was awesome.
he seemed to be problematic.
Well, regardless, it is a great Star Wars movie. Disney is doing a good job, and that's it.
Yeah, for its
One
issues,
thing we have left out, and I think everybody, because he was truly one of the better parts of this film, I think he, as a character, was over the top of what we expected from him. So the stuff that was a little off for us, we're more critical of. But Poe Dameron,
Well, I did love him.
that
Absolutely.
his whole arc throughout.
You are the new Han Solo. You're
absolutely
right.
badass.
And Finn is no longer ridiculous either. Finn actually Finn found his cojones.
Right.
So,
how would you grade this movie? Perfect 10 all the way?
I gave the last film a 9, and I might, because I think Ryan Johnson actually is, even though I didn't love every film he's ever done, he's a brilliant filmmaker. He knows how to make beauty, and it kind of moved me, so we have to.
Alex?
Well, it goes back to what we said about with episode 7, and I still feel good about giving episode 7 an 8. And just by first viewing, when I think back to episode 7 and look at this one, I enjoyed episode 7 more than I enjoyed episode 8 overall.
Wow.
There were a lot of really good moments in episode 8, but there were some other moments that I didn't think were as great, and it didn't outweigh it quite as much as it did with episode 7. So I have to go down a little bit and say, right now, episode 8, I'm giving a 7 out of 10.
Wow, I think you're like one of the first critics to do that. Also, I like the fact that you've rated the Battlefront 2 game higher than you did this movie. Which I don't think anybody has done.
Right. I didn't have the prior experience of Battlefront 1.
Right, nerds out there are completely disagreeing with you.
Yes.
We'd like to introduce something new to our shows, and it is called the New Vodka Best Line of our show, as voted on by our crew. And tonight's winner is obviously Daniel Durrett. And I think it has to do with Yoda the college years, as one of our crew members said, which we all want that Star Wars movie now. Put that idea in their head, Dan.
Yeah, let's see Yoda doing a funnel.
R2, do you agree with that? Do you want a Yoda the college years movie?
Yeah,
Well, if R2 wants it, we gotta have it. Thank you for watching the Movie Roundtable. Until the next time, good night, and may the Force be with you.